Elden Ring is the latest game from Software. I hate that. I hate that when I say a game is from Software, I have to say from twice in a row. It's not good sentence structure. It's not good sentence structure. It forces one to instead continually use phrases such as courtesy of. Elden Field is the latest game that comes courtesy of From Software. Did I just say Elden's Field? Elden Ring is the latest game from Software. Oh fuck, I said from.
The loathsome dung eater.
The general premise of Elden Ring is that there's a guy called the Loathsome Dung Eater, and that's the premise of Elden Ring. The game is essentially Dark Souls writ large. Dark Souls expanded, with a more open format, a greater emphasis on exploration, and a heightened sense of variety in how one approaches in-game problems. Now, I've never been fond of the overall mainstream video game trend of pushing everything toward open-world design. I think in many cases, open-world games are arbitrarily so. For knocking on 10 years now, I've been a huge defender of linear experiences. A vast and, let's face it, ignorant portion of the video game industry treats a linear like a dirty word, whereas I think a single-track format lends itself better to tight direction and well-paced narrative. And let's face it, so many open-world games are copy-paste environments littered with nebulous busywork that leads to a game constituting 90% pure fluff. Elden Ring, however, is one of those rare cases where a shift to an open format actually really benefits the experience. I was skeptical at first, but opening up the tight, often corridor-esque environments of a typical Dark Souls game is stunningly successful. One of the appealing things of a typical From Software game is treading into the unknown, of stepping into a mysterious, often intimidatingly hostile environment, and rather than dilute that atmosphere, Elden Ring's open world only serves to enhance the sense of wonder, adding as it does the potential for very real exploration. What has really helped this shift is the fact that Elden Ring doesn't compromise on level design. The expanded map has not been used as an excuse to copy and paste the same bandit camp over and over again as so many open world games do. Environmental details, building locations, architecture, enemy encounters, all these elements are just as considered, just as well placed as any average Soulsborne game. Nothing feels arbitrarily placed. All that can be found within Elden Ring has a sense of purpose, feels like it belongs there. In short, this isn't a map full of recycled garbage. Some actual thought went into the world, which is nice. The moment-to-moment gameplay of Elden Ring is traditional Dark Souls fare, which is most appealing to me as someone who didn't care for Sekiro very much and was worried that would be From Software's mechanical bread and butter from now on. The considered methodical, challenging combat mechanics of the traditional Soulsborne series is in full effect here, with weapon mechanics and skills very closely reminiscent of Dark Souls 3. Thanks perhaps in no small part to Elden Ring's open world, there's certainly more variety in how one approaches a situation. Being able to go after a majority of enemies from any angle, plus an incredibly effective stealth mechanic, lends itself to a significant increase in tactical opportunity. A number of tactics found within previous entries in the series are also easier to pull off this time. Backstabbing enemies requires a less perfect positioning. While there's a parry mechanic, you can also perform counterattacks after successfully blocking, which really helps folks like me out who have no sense of timing. Seriously, my timing is awful. You should have heard how many jokes I made when died. It's also easier to just not, if you so choose. Bosses are of course required combat, but a vast majority of enemy encounters you could skirt entirely if you so desired. Combat controls are easier, more accessible, you get a neat jump attack that's really easy to pull off. The suite of options available to the player are far more clearly explained, leading to a significantly less obtuse game to get into. And the game's even considerate enough to give you the option to summon help fairly early on. Now, when I'm talking about summoning help, I'm not just talking about online co-op, though that remains an option. Throughout the course of one's adventure, you will be able to collect and summon a variety of monsters, from wolves to skeletons to an adorable jellyfish. You can temporarily call creatures to your aid who are fantastic for distracting enemies as well as dealing some damage. The locations in which you can summon are limited and not particularly well explained, but their help is invaluable. And it's just really fun to collect these monsters and send them out into battle like some sort of eldritch Pokemon, or at least more eldritch than the average Pokemon game already is. Combined with the ability to summon traditional online co-op help from human players, Elden Ring's quality of life improvements makes it the most accessible FromSoft game to date. There's still plenty of challenge. This can be a difficult and punishing game, but you have multiple options to ease that challenge if you so wish. And if you're facing a situation that feels too difficult, Elden Ring's larger world means there's plenty to do, plenty of other places to visit, that you can go away and come back later, stronger and more experienced. I love the number of optional dungeons hiding in mountains and forests. They're short but fun sidetracks with a neat boss at the end, and stumbling on one accidentally always feels rewarding. I've got a couple negative points to make about the game. Performance can be a bit choppy at times on the PS5, the PC version is apparently even worse. It's nothing too distressing, but frame rate can be a little choppy at times. I've struggled a little with locking on to enemies. I've had lock-ons break or fail to activate, which has led to a couple untimely deaths. Plus, as a point of personal whining, I am irritated by the amount of deceptive range quite a lot of enemies have. There are many attacks that can hit you from a distance that you're just not expecting. But then again, I've never played a video game in my life, so what do I know? Elden Ring is visually inspiring. I love the expansive fields and mountains and woods. I particularly enjoy how sunlight filters through the environment. And while Elden Ring features plenty of From Software's trademark bleakness, it's far less of a dead world this time around. There's lots of greenery, a richer colour palette, and the prevalence of wildlife, as well as some monster types that simply don't want to fight you, lend a sense of vibrancy, a sense of life. You're not traversing the kind of fallen husk typical of your average Dark Souls. It goes without saying that the music's fucking hot too. There's just so much to get into with Elden Ring. There's a huge variety of weapons. It's so much easier to customize said weapons. You can add or remove skills and attributes at will. There's a cute crafting system, so you can add all sorts of items to your repertoire, and be far less wary of using them because they don't feel as limited as compared to the average Soulsborne. I'm not yet sure if Elden Ring will supplant Bloodborne in terms of my personal regard and ranking, but I have a feeling it might. Elden Ring is just pure quality through and through. Certainly the most playable of From Software's games. Beautifully designed, mechanically, environmentally, and aesthetically. A wonderful example of how to adapt gameplay for an open world format without compromising the structure of your gameplay. Demonstrating that so many repetitive, self-cannibalizing open world games are hack jobs. Jobs performed by hack developers. From didn't take the square footage of a large map as an excuse to cut corners and give the player chores instead of enrichment. Elden Ring is simply fucking good. Fucking great. Terrific. In fact, I want it. I love it. I need to be done producing this video so I can go back to it. Thank you. So I'm going to stop now. Bye. Dung eater.